Hi everyone, my name is Yashvi and my group mates are Kasia and Liz, and today we're going to be talking about Berta, Caceres, and environmental, social, and climate justice. So to start off, I want to give a little bit of a background on environmental justice. Environmental justice is a relatively new phrase and is defined by the United States Environmental Protection Agency as, quote, just treatment and meaningful involvement of all people regardless of income, race, color, national origin, tribal affiliation, or disability, in agency decision-making and other federal activities that affect human health and the environment, end quote. Environmental justice also aims to protect all people from disproportionate and negative human health and environmental effects related to climate change, legacy of racism, or other structural or systemic barriers. Overall, it aims to have equitable access to a healthy, sustainable, and resilient environment for everyone. The environmental justice movement has been historically led by Black, Latino, Indigenous, and low-income communities who have been disproportionately affected by pollution and the overarching climate crisis. Part of the movement also works to stop businesses and government bodies from putting pollution-causing sites in or near marginalized communities. It specifically gives, quote, disenfranchised communities the abilities and tools to participate in policy decision-making about the environments in which they live and work, end quote. The environmental justice movement in the United States got its start in 1968 when Black activists got together to form the Memphis Sanitation Strike for better working conditions for Memphis garbage workers. However, it wasn't until 1982 when Black activists protested a toxic load of soil being stored in their community of Warren County, North Carolina, that environmental justice gained national attention and mainstream coverage. Today, environmental justice is an important part of any and all climate movements to ensure it's equitable for those that have been historically marginalized and left out of the conversation.
Hi everyone, I'm Liz, and I'm going to be talking about her early life. So, Berta Caceres is an environmental activist who was born on March 4th, 1971, in La Esperanza, Honduras. She's also a Lenca woman which is an indigenous group of people from Honduras who have the largest indigenous population in Honduras today, with about 2,000 villages and 116,000 people. La Esperanza, where she grew up, is one of the poorest and most isolated regions in Honduras. Most of her childhood, she was growing up in the times of the 1970s and 1980s when there was a wave of violence in Central America. When it comes to Berta's activist background, it is clear that a lot of inspiration she had came from her mother. Her mother was a midwife, along with being a social activist as well. She took in and took care of refugees from El Salvador. She taught her kids the value of standing up for people in need. Berta ended up becoming a student activist in 1933. She also co-founded the National Council of Popular and Indigenous Organizations of Honduras. This council was to address the growing threats posed to Lenca communities by illegal logging. The council was there to fight for Lencan people's territorial rights as well as improving their livelihood. She also used this organization to fight against the Honduran government and large Honduran corporations, which in turn made her very unpopular amongst the country's elite. Some other causes she stood up for was that all human rights deserve to be protected. She was able to relate very closely to women all around the world, and she appreciates the issues they encounter and fully understands them. She also emphasizes the importance of the struggle that LGBT people endure because these people experience similar oppressions and discrimination that her own people do.
Hi, I'm Kasia. Um, Moving into what Berta is most well known for is her work defending the Gualacarque River and her own indigenous community, the Lenca community that Liz just mentioned. So this river and the surrounding watershed serve as a vital resource in her community, not only providing fresh water for their agricultural and medicinal plant needs, but also serving as a sacred cultural symbol for their community. A substantial hydroelectric project planned by DESA was proposed for the river. This project, called the Agua Zarca Dam, was funded by European financial institutions, including the Dutch Development Bank, FMO, and the Finnish investor, FinFund. Later, the Chinese-owned company Sino Hydro joined on as an investor, which you might all remember from their involvement with the GERD. The Honduran government authorized the project without consulting the locals, and this incited unrest and protesting. The Lenca community felt that this project infringed on their autonomy and free will as a people. Without proper consideration or acknowledgement of the indigenous groups' ties to the river, this is a blatant environmental justice issue, and Berta began a campaign in opposition to the construction of the dam, and she filed complaints with government authorities and brought community representatives with her on campaign trips. Furthermore, she organized a local assembly where community members formally voted against the dam. She led a protest where people peacefully demanded their rightful say in the project, and the case was brought to the Inter-American Human Rights Commission, appealing the international funding for the project. As you can see in this image, this is a group of the Lincoln people protesting at the river site where the dam was supposed to be constructed. So throughout Honduras, many environmental activists have been attacked, discredited, detained, and even tortured. As a matter of fact, Thomas Garcia, a community leader from Rio Blanco, was shot and killed during a peaceful protest at the dam office. Then in 2016, Berta was shot and killed in her home by hired gunmen just 2 days before her 45th birthday. There was incredible international outrage over her death, prompting renewed calls for environmental justice and environmental activists. 7 people were arrested and found guilty of her murder in 2018, and then in 2021, Robert David Castillo, the head of the hydroelectric company DESA, was found guilty of co-conspiring in her murder. Fortunately, Berta's efforts were not in vain, as international investors withdrew from the project and construction of the dam came to a halt completely. This quote is from Berta, and she is describing the river that they were protecting. And she says, "The river is like blood running through your veins. It's unjust. Not only is it unjust, it's a crime to attack a river that has life, that has spirits." So as you can see, the Lenca people feel that this river is not just an inanimate object, but rather more like a person with a soul and its own rights. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation.